So Donald Trump says that he would consider halting U.S. oil purchase from Saudi Arabia unless our Mideast ally gets more involved in the fight against ISIS. Some critics say that he is taking steps towards isolationism. Donald Trump denies that. He says that America is his #1 priority. He tells the New York Times, quote, "We protect countries and take tremendous monetary hits on protecting countries. There's a whole big list of them. We lose everywhere. We lose monetarily everywhere," he says. And then this morning said this on Fox and Friends.
Nobody has the strength that I have on the borders. Nobody has the strength that I have on the military. Ted is actually weak on that. And you're right. My policy is America first. And it'll always be America first.
You can sense the emerging title of his foreign policy there with the America First slogan. Walid Phares is a Fox News military Middle Eastern analyst and terrorism analyst. He's also foreign policy advisor to Donald Trump's campaign. Good to have you with us, Walid. Good morning to you.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you. Good morning.
I'm curious what you think about the NATO part of what he talked about. And we should point out that he sat down with people from the New York Times, Washington Post, and, you know, it was an exhaustive, long interview that was done on his thoughts on foreign policy. But basically, he said he thinks NATO is obsolete. He said NATO was done at a time when you had the Soviet Union, which was obviously larger, much larger than Russia today. And he says NATO doesn't discuss terrorism, and he wants them to do that. What do you think?
Well, first of all, with regard to the interviews, an important point for the public to understand, one thing is to deliver a comprehensive speech on foreign policy, as he did so in APAC, for example, though you understand the points, or if it's a conversation with media, and a difference between conversation at New York Times or at C-SPAN. But having said that, to the substance, Mr. Trump's idea is to renegotiate and actually re-engage NATO. It's not to withdraw from NATO. Actually, he has a point when he said that NATO was devised, you know, in the Cold War, for a Cold War situation. NATO has grown. The problems are coming from the Southeast and North Africa, so there need to be a reform of NATO with or without the candidacy of Mr. Trump.
I wanted to play a soundbite from Ted Cruz reacting to the NATO part of this story.
Donald is out of his depth. He doesn't know, he doesn't understand these issues. Donald called publicly for effectively withdrawing America from NATO. Now, that is a catastrophically foolish proposition. Abandoning Europe, withdrawing from the most successful military alliance of modern times makes no sense at all.
Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, there's a difference. If Mr. Trump had a doctrine of isolationism, it would have been in a book. He would have been making speeches about it. I want to withdraw America only. That's not the case. What he is talking about is a re-engagement. NATO is an old institution. We have 3 wars of terror going on around the world and in the region. We need to redirect the efforts of NATO. We need more participation from NATO participants. I would consider this as a re-engagement, not as a withdrawal.
You know, the top of what Ted Cruz said there was that Donald Trump is out of his depth. And that's probably the sort of most widely said criticism of Donald Trump. You have been working with him. You've been talking with him as a foreign policy advisor. A, why did you choose to support him? You could have chosen to support anybody in this campaign. What do you like so much about him? And B, is it accurate that he doesn't understand what's going on in the world?
No, it's not accurate that he does not understand what's in the world. The politicians have not seen Donald Trump as a politician for the last 30 years, but as a businessman who has been engaging in international affairs. I mean, I looked at his achievements, and I had conversations with him. When he sees maps, he asks the right questions. Where are the problems? How can we define them? Because in his own profession, that's what he does. He was a real estate expert, so he realized how these maps move. It does not mean that he won't need help and support from an administration, not just from advisors. Advisors are for the campaign. The real work will begin if he gets to the White House and get connected to the actual agencies that are working on these issues.
All right, but in terms of understanding of, you know, Sunni versus Shia and the complex web that is the underpinning of radical terrorism around the world, has he probed you about those issues?
Let me do a little comparison with any candidates before him. I mean, President Obama, when he came to the presidency, how much did he understand of these issues? I mean, his speeches were very abstract in the first 3 months when he started. When he got connected with the experts of his administration, then he had a policy. Even Secretary Clinton today, without being briefed, and you ask her about who's going to take Mosul tomorrow, which division, is she going to answer you? She will need the help and the expertise. It's really about the judgment, the strategic judgment of, if you have the information, what would you do with it?
Understood. Walid, thank you very much. Always good to have you with us, and we look forward to speaking with you more as somebody who's going to be advising Mr. Trump. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.